The future is here. This is where we're going. This is a monument of where we're going that was created by the African leaders. And the president of Senegal was given the responsibility of creating an institution or a monument that represented our great struggle. This happened about 10 years ago. Finally, they completed this monument, which to me represents what we're all about, what we have to be all about. Our elder, Silas Muhammad, talked about his relationship with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is a relationship of the men that is key and crucial. That's why I was so glad that they talked about the 10,000 man movement. Minister Farrakhan talked about it. We need to continue to talk about it. We need a 10 million man movement and a 100 million man movement, because our men have been devastated. And the men don't have the healing and the self that women have. I am putting none of us down as men, but the Creator did not allow us to have an inner that allowed us to produce life. The Creator might have allowed us to get the muscles, as our athletic brothers are talking about. But your breast is just going to be that. A breast is not going to bring life into the world. The women they're wired in a special way. That's why our brother Silas Muhammad wanted his female counterpart, that he shared life, to be there with him. Look at that couple. If that is not a couple that is shining light on our people, I don't know what is. The men have to be in the mix, and they have to have family at their heart and center. This is the image of the black man rising. And the Creator knows the black man needs to rise. He's been on his knees too much. He's been on his knees too much. I ain't hear no say, yes, Dr. J. He's been on his knees praying to the wrong people. He's been on his knees shooting crap that he needs to turn around. He has been on his knees doing what he don't need to do. What can you do on your knees? You got to be up and ready to move throughout the universe. So this is the image of the black man rising. And there he is, a powerful symbol of our strength. And it's on a quiet volcano in Senegal, not too far from Gorée, where there was a slave island. But this is not about the past, this is about the future. And the black man is rising. My elder brother, with his queen, with his wife. And they are not about little business, they're about serious business. The brother is holding his child up to the Creator. And that child is now pointing north to Europe, where we usually look to sustenance because we expect white folks to give us something. They've given us hell for all the years. Chancellor William, one of our great professors, wrote a book about the destruction of black civilization over thousands of years. They've given us hell for thousands of years. So we need to be able to change that equation. Chancellor Williams also wrote an outstanding work where he talked about the destruction of black civilization. But he also talked about the future, the rebirth of African civilization. And the period that we're in now is the rebirth of African civilization and African humanity. And so to have so many strands of our movement come together, that's the important part of the process. But to be understanding what is happening here, the president of Nigeria, president of South Africa, and others asked the president of Senegal to design the monument. By design, it is taller than the Statue of Liberty. By design, it is taller than Jesus the Redeemer overlooking Rio. By design, it is not a symbol to be worshipped, or it is not a victory in a war. By design, thank you, brother. By design, it speaks to our future. The black man rising, holding on to his rock. That's what our brother Cyrus Muhammad said, I want my rock on the stage with me. But he asked her in the most loving way and most respectful way, and she fulfilled his wishes. Give him another round of applause. My wife and I have been together for the last 53 years dealing with Africa. And as soon as we got married, we went to live in Africa. And we've been everywhere in Africa. Africa is a source of great power, great strength, great wealth, great wisdom, great knowledge. And you don't need a black power movie, Wakanda Forever, to tell you that. It is the reality. Everybody in the world knows they can't go no place without Africa. The Chinese want to go and be the new boy on the block. But they know that the African continent, with its wealth and just its natural resources and its traditions, are necessary for China to rise. Europe can't stay out of Africa. They call it the dark continent, but I'll be damned if they ain't there every day, every way, trying to figure out how to get some of that Wakanda out of the Africa so they can start to exploit again and again and again. We cannot give up the continent that we've been blessed to be a part of. The human origins come out of Africa. The greatest wealth, the greatest understanding, the greatest philosophy comes out of Africa. If you leave Africa on the side, you are out of your mind. And our idea is to get into the African mind. Forget about the behind, get into the African mind. Stop worrying about the looks, get into the books. That's my phrase, my little rap, when I had to go to 200 to 300 universities around the world to deal with the biggest attack in the history of the world on a professor, which occurred to me. That's when we met. That's when my brother set up Professor Small and myself to join him in Houston. And as a result of that relationship, he has grown and grown and grown. And let's hope that he will continue to grow, because we need him as an example of the struggle. So this is our future. We can talk about the past, but the future is in our hands. We have to define ourselves for ourselves. We have to define our history. We have to claim our legacy. Other people claim that they built pyramids with brick, not even brick, with baked mud and straw. In Kemet, on the Giza Plateau, there are no pyramids built out of baked mud and straw. The great pyramids of Giza, by Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure, that family of greatness, all of those pyramids are built by granite taken from hundreds of miles south of Kemet, each of them weighing several tons. And the project involved not straw, not mud, but putting together 2.5 million granite blocks so that a statement can be made to the world about the relationship between the human family and the divine order of the universe. You have to understand that your people left you with this power in your hands, but you have to interpret it. So a book that we have to have is Tony Browder's book. He talks about the Nile Valley, and he talks about Washington, D.C. That Washington, D.C. was configured by the so-called founders of this nation to tap into African power. And that's why you have a symbol of resurrection and rebirth at the center of it, the George Washington Monument. That monument doesn't have a damn thing to do with George Washington. It comes out of the African tradition of resurrection and rebirth. They claimed it and they named it because they were looking to take our power to use to build themselves a strong nation. And the Europeans have. As quiet as it's kept, that symbol of the Tekken that Professor Tony Browder talks about has been dragged out of Africa over and over again by all of the Europeans looking for greatness. The popes dragged those symbols out of Africa from the great temples and put them in Vatican Square, dragged them out of Africa, took them across the Mediterranean, up the Italian peninsula, and then put a cross on top of it and claimed it for themselves. The French did the same thing, took the monument of the rebirth and resurrection out of, in front of the great monuments and temples in Egypt, and dragged it to France and put it in their special place in front of the Louvre magazine, in the Place de Concorde, the place of peace. As quiet as it's kept, the British did the same thing and put that symbol of resurrection and rebirth next to the Parliament along the Thames River in London. And the Johnny-come-latelys, Americans, did the same thing. They took one of those symbols of rebirth and resurrection out of Egypt and then dragged it to New York, and took 2 weeks for them to drag it through New York and put it in Central Park. Everybody is tapping into your culture, your history, your ideas, your empowerment, except yourself. We've been running for the materialistic thing. We want the bigger earrings. We want some more gold in our teeth. We want a bigger car.